Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here. This is your Planning Outlook video on Tuesday the 27th of November. We've got a change of pattern compared to what we've just seen then as weather systems come in from the Atlantic for the rest of this week. Some rather unsettled conditions, widespread gales across the mountains, frequent periods of rain, becoming snow and hail again, particularly as freezing levels drop toward the end of the week, and a complicated mix on Saturday as a low moves further south across the British Isles. Snow could fall more widely across many northern mountains. And into next week, still a mixture, but maybe just hints of a build of pressure for something a bit drier for a few days. Let's take you through the sequences then, and this is the temperature charts first of all. 850 millibars, as we often show you, around 4,500 feet, varies slightly depending on the pressure pattern. This is through Wednesday and that brief push of much milder air that comes in. Cooler air comes back in from the Atlantic though as we go through Thursday, and as we run the sequence on, particularly into Friday, we'll see freezing levels dropping back down to, well, increasingly 600-700 metres by the end of the day, and temperatures on the highest tops down to -3 or 4 as Friday progresses. Saturday then is the interesting one as cold air stays in place across Scotland and the far north of England, whilst a weather system moves across England and Wales, and on its northern side there's the scope for some snowfalls to fairly low levels across the uplands, say above 400-500 metres. Need to watch that one at this stage. One of these lows that does cut through across the south can sometimes bring snowfall lower than you might think. Basically, northern regions of Britain stay under the fairly cold air, the south of the Pennines and Wales stays under relatively milder air, and that's more or less where we are into the start of next week. Synoptic charts for the next few days, and there's a rather stormy one for Wednesday. Deep area of low pressure is to the west of Ireland, fronts sweeping their way northwards and eastwards, widespread gales, storm force winds. We may well be seeing wind gusts 80 to 100 miles per hour on the very highest tops at times during Wednesday, and some heavy pulses of rain as well sweeping through, setting in most prolonged across southwestern parts of Scotland and across the western hills of Wales and the Lake District. Another little area of low pressure moves through during Thursday, all within the same southwesterly sequence just at the moment. That on the move, it may well give some heavy rain for a time across Wales, the Pennines and the south of Scotland. Still some uncertainty on the exact detail. Quite a squally cold front will pass quickly eastwards. Heavy showers then with some hail mixed in will follow from the west, something thundery perhaps into Wales with some downpours, whilst across Scotland the showers not quite as potent, but giving some snow on the highest tops in Scotland. The relatively colder air is moving back in from the North Atlantic into Friday. Again, it's a day of showers, those of some snow and some hail, and the snow falling above, say, around 500 or 600 metres in Scotland, with those freezing levels having dropped by this stage, and the risk, again, of gales across the mountains, severe wind chill then where exposed. Here's the complication then into Saturday. This area of low pressure that's moving in from the Atlantic, and the centre of it to track somewhere across England and Wales. The exact track open to a bit of question, but on its northern flank the scope for some snowfall widely across the hills, possibly down to some lower slopes in places. The southern uplands, maybe into the southern highlands, perhaps even the lakes and Pennines if the low tracks a bit further to the south, so one to watch there. On its southern side, more likely to be rain, and the risk of widespread gales wrapped around the southern side of the low. The main bulk of the northern highlands of Scotland a bit more under a showery regime. Still the cold air in place, some snow and some hail showers possible, and the wind probably strongest towards the very far north. Somewhere just around central southern Scotland there may be a relative lull in the wind at this stage. So quite complicated. Keep an eye on details into the weekend. Sunday's chart, again, looking rather a mess. There's areas of low pressure moving to the south of Britain, and something of the leftovers of previous lows and showers just toward the north. So snow showers, some hail maybe mixed in locally, some periods of sunshine, probably best across more eastern regions in the Highlands, and it may be that the lakes and Pennines don't do too bad, but just again, watch the details. So the general story as we go into next week is a very similar one to that, with low pressure somewhere around or maybe just to the north of Britain. At one point, it never quite looked as though we'd go back towards the westerly pattern into early December, but the weather patterns can chop and change, and always once we go 10 days down the line, confidence becomes lower. But the main crucial factor in terms of temperatures is that the jet stream is still more or less running to the south of the British Isles, or at least across the central and southern parts of the country, keeping northern regions under a colder air mass. So even though things are trying to come around from the west, we've still got the cold air in place. The milder air never really genuinely getting too far northwards into Scotland. Now for next week, it looks as though eventually pressure starts to build a little bit from the Atlantic, and what may be just a fairly showery pattern at first gives way to something substantially drier into perhaps midweek as this area of high pressure begins to build. With chilly air in place, the risk of frost into the valleys and the glens becomes more common, and showers becoming fewer and further between. And that takes us more or less to the end of the week. That's around the 6th and 7th of December, with a ridge of high pressure in charge. Where that then goes next will be critical as to what happens in the later stages or the middle stages of December. It's possible that that high starts to move itself a bit further back towards Scandinavia, and we may well turn back round to square one and be back in east or southeasterly winds as we head towards mid-month. That is rather uncertain, so I won't try and go any further ahead at this stage. We'll update the video for you on Friday. Thanks for watching today. Bye for now.